Hey, good morning, and welcome to the UroPatient podcast. I'm your host, Vic Sinise. Welcome to the show. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, great. Glad to have you on board. You YouTubers, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate that. If this is your first time checking us out, be sure to look at our website at UroPatient.com, where you can learn more about the show. Also, best place to go and find past episodes. It's also another great place to go because we have all of our downloads available. All these patient pamphlets that we're putting out are available on our website. So let's get right into our show today. We're going to be talking about, is your diet making your bladder crazy? Now, what we're talking about is something called overactive bladder, which is a disease situation. It's a condition that's characterized by a sudden and involuntary contraction of the muscles of the bladder wall, which causes an urgent need to urinate. So if you're kind of like that picture there and you're rushing to the bathroom, you may have that problem. Now, there's many causes for it, and you can't just simply say, well, it's probably just a food. So we're going to talk about foods, but diseases such as diabetes can cause frequent urination, kidney stones, cancers of the bladder, urinary tract infections. All these have those same symptoms. Some medications, like the diuretics that you may take for high blood pressure, can cause more urine to be produced. If you're, my age and your prostate's getting larger, you might have an obstruction that can cause blockage. Again, same symptoms. If you're female and the hormone changes have taken place, those things can also sometimes affect bladders. Obesity, constipation. But one of the things we're going to focus in on is food today. Now, because of what I've mentioned, you don't want to treat yourself. Anybody who treats themselves has a fool for a patient. Be sure to go and see your doctor, see your urologist, find out what's going on. Make sure there's not something more dangerous that needs to be treated, a medical disease that could certainly fix this. But if you've gone through all your workup and they have not pinpointed anything definite, one of the things you may want to consider is looking at what foods could be irritating your bladder. And it's surprising, but it's a lot of the fun foods in life that can cause some of these issues. Now, one thing that I also think it's necessary to mention is hydration. How much do you drink? Some people aren't drinking enough. And if your urine is really concentrated, that can also cause issues with your urination or your bladder being overactive, because that concentrated urine can cause that. On the other hand, some people drink way too much, and that's kind of gotten to be a big thing nowadays, where people are drinking a lot of fluids because we're saying it's good for you. But there is too much. Now, what's kind of a guideline? Well, there's a couple out there that I found here, which one said men should drink about 3.7 liters a day and 2.7 liters a day for women. You want a real simple rule of thumb. We call it the 8x8 rule, which is drinking 8 ounces of 8-ounce glasses of water a day. So about 2 liters or a half a gallon of fluid a day. That's usually should be adequate for normal intake. Now, I will warn you that this push for fluid intake. I was at my grandkids' house for Christmas, and they all got these big mugs that are real fancy. I won't mention the name of the mug, but they're 40 ounces, and the kids are drinking these things down. I said, hey, there is a limit to how much you can drink. You shouldn't overdrink. You can actually drink too much and can cause dilution of your sodium. So beware. If you got one of these big things, 40 ounces, that's, for women, 2 of those, and you've satisfied your requirement for the day. But we're going to be talking about these major dietary irritants to the urinary tract. So what are these foods that can cause issues? And again, I mentioned that a lot of them are the fun things in life: chocolate, coffee, chili peppers, sometimes, lemons, cranberry. How many people have used the old remedy of cranberry juice to treat their, what they thought was causing their problem, like a urinary tract infection? So cranberries, the acidic things are what cause a lot of this issue. Alcohol, all types, beer, wine, whiskey, any of those things, all alcohols can irritate the bladder if your bladder is sensitive to it. And I got to make that point, because not everybody's bladder is going to be sensitive to every food that I'm going to mention. And so I put together a list of things that I found was helpful for our patients, and I call it the major dietary irritants to the urinary tract. all alcoholic beverages, as I mentioned, cranberry juice or cranberries, lemon juice, carbonated drinks, especially the colas, chili, spicy foods, especially hot ones, coffee, my favorite, acidy foods, which is coffees and colas, and chocolate sometimes. So if you're going to take and try to see if it's a food that's bothering your system, we say that you should have like a 2-week washout period, meaning you stop it for 2 weeks. Now, there's a couple different ways to do that. I always tell patients, look at the list. If something jumps out, now, if I look at this list right away, coffee, I love coffee. So that's going to jump out to me. Now, maybe that's you. You could stop coffee for 2 weeks and see what happens. Or you could eliminate everything in that list for 2 weeks. And if suddenly you go, wow, I'm not going to the bathroom so frequently, I'm not having to rush to the bathroom, you may have just found out what your problem is. And then you can start introducing these foods one at a time, bring them back into your diet. As you start to reintroduce the different type of foods, you may find out, here's the culprit. Now this is the one I should avoid. I could tell you a quick story. My daughter, when she was little, chocolate was her fiend. If we gave her chocolate and wanted to go for a car trip somewhere, I know I'm going to be hitting every rest area. No chocolate, could make it all the way up to our summer place without stopping for the rest area. So you got to find out what those trigger foods are. If again, I can't stress it enough, if you have this issue, not everybody's bladder is going to react to any of these foods. So, but worth knowing. If you do find something that you like and you want to look for substitutes, there are things that you can substitute for coffee, such as kava, things that take the acid out of the coffee. There's a few different brands out there, so you can try those. Herbal teas that don't contain a lot of citrus, again, the acid situation, or make your tea super weak. You can try that. Hey, Ovaltine, I remember that as a kid. The crunchy little chocolate things, that's really not chocolate. So it does work if you have a chocolate allergy, or not allergy, or intolerance of it. Late harvest dessert wines have lower acid content to them. Use fructose as found in sucrose and avoid things like the NutraSweet and the saccharin, those type of things. Carob for chocolate in the recipe. Again, another chocolate substitutes, not chocolate. Orange or lime peel scrapings, not the white part of it, because that's where a lot of the acidic qualities are. And vitamins, vitamin C only with calcium ascorbate co-buffered with calcium carbonate. Wow, a lot of fancy words. And vitamin E taken a powdered form instead of the capsules. Usually comes in like that oily capsule. And the only B that you can use is B6 if those things are irritating your bladder. Now, I did put together a handout that you can download from UroPatient.com. Just go to our download spot, and it's that exact thing I've been talking to you about. So nice and handy to have that on board. So that's really covers all the irritants to the bladder. That's really going to kind of, I think, round out the discussion so that we know what things we should be avoiding and what can help. Next week, we're going to talk about the unsolved mysteries in a bladder diary. If you've never heard of a bladder diary, this is a great tool that you can do ahead of time before your visit to go see your doctor for that evaluation. I can tell you all the things that we can learn from a bladder diary. So we'll cover that next week. I think it'd be interesting to find out about that. I hope to see everybody next week at UroPatient.com.